Good morning, everybody. This is Jim Feist in Las Vegas, joined again by Hank Goldberg. Hank, good morning to you.
And to you.
We're going to talk a little, we're going to talk some pro football, we're going to talk some college hoops, and we're going to talk about some college hoops that people don't look at, these hidden gems on the college card that really a lot of people ignore. Hank, I know you have some thoughts. Take off. Where you want to start this?
Well, there's some schools that people don't pay much attention to that are pretty good investments. Small conferences in the Northeast, like Hofstra is a school. It's an interesting one in Long Island. St. Peter's has a very good basketball team, and they just keep winning. And they're forever getting points. Buffalo, where Bobby Hurley came from, he was now coaching at Arizona State. Some of those smaller schools, and then Marquette, which is not a small school, but Marquette just knocked off Seton Hall, and they're coached by Wojciechowicz, who was an assistant under. He was an assistant at Duke. He played at Duke, and he was a long-time assistant there under Coach K. Done a heck of a job at Marquette. I'll tell you another team that's doing very well that nobody pays much attention to is Tulane, who has Dunleavy is coaching them. He's done a heck of a job there. These are teams that nobody talks about very much, but if you do your homework, you'll come up with, Tulane last night covered a generous spread, and these are teams that can put cash in your pocket. You just got to work hard to study results and see what they do, and you'll come up with some winners.
Well, it takes a lot of people a long time to dig through these schools, and that's one of the problems. For you and I that do this, that's one of the things that we do. I mean, there's 300 teams out there, and it's hard for everybody to look at them, but that's what you and I have. We know there's hidden gems in there, and we try to find them.
Well, it used to be Monmouth, but Monmouth is not very good this year. Oakland is another one, a small college out of Detroit area that isn't too bad. And, you just don't have to look at teams like Duke, who, by the way, Duke is a very young team right now, and they don't play very much defense. And that's why, they got up against Florida State and got beat. North Carolina State, they've lost a couple of games lately, and they've slipped in the rankings. And the basic problem is they're young, and they don't defend very well. And so, there's teams like them. Kentucky is another team that is struggling a little bit because this is not one of his better groups in terms of, and there's a similar problem. They can't defend very well. They won last night, but they didn't run away with their game. And part of their problem is Coach Calipari is having trouble getting those kids to defend. So, these are things you got to watch out for when you get a team like Duke, who's consistently a double-digit favorite, and yet, they didn't do very well against Virginia. They didn't do well against North Carolina State. Virginia is a team that can play defense. That coach really works those kids hard. And, these are things that when you're playing college basketball, you got to work it. You really got to work it. You got to study it. And you got to look at coaches. And with these teams that now have, kids who just stayed in school for a year and then they're gone, that's why you're seeing so many teams that can't play defense. They don't have those kids playing together for a long time.
That's very true. The one and dones, and of course Calipari, Kentucky is the leader of that pack because he hardly keeps any players from year to year because they're so good they go for the money in the NBA, and I don't blame them for doing it but anyway, that you're 100% right. There's a lot of gems out there, and that's what we hope to find for our clients each and every day. I guess we really haven't talked about, we didn't get a chance to talk about it. The Monday night, the championship game in college football was one hell of a game to watch. Exciting right to the end. Bad beats. A lot of people had bad beats one way or the other on that. But it was exciting, and Saban made that big change at halftime, which is very unusual for him to do something like that. And the kid from Hawaii really played incredible. He made some mistakes, there's no question, but he's young. But he obviously has the talent to throw the ball. He can throw the ball quite well.
Two freshman quarterbacks at the end. That was very unusual for a championship game. I thought that the quarterback from Georgia played a heck of a game. I see where the guy who got hurt, and the reason he wound up with a job, is transferring to Washington. He's not going to stick around there. But I'll tell you something about that play that he beat, that they were beaten by. The safety made a huge mistake. They were in the right defense, but he's going to be like Bill Buckner. He's going to be remembered for a long time for blowing his assignment. And there was a communication problem between the two safeties, and that's why that guy was so all alone when he scored the winning touchdown. But it was an interesting game, and those of us who had taken 4 points were not that unhappy.
I wasn't unhappy with the side total, but it cost me the total bet. I was under 46, and of course the overtime killed me. But that's...
I'll tell you what was interesting, Jim, was how that last score affected the books, because Las Vegas was about to make a lot of money on this game, but that last score, they lost money on the over, and they also lost money on teasers with that last score. But they did make a lot of money because people overwhelmingly bet on Alabama in the game. So it was a slight win for the books out there, where it could have been a much bigger one had they not gotten the over.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Well, we got 4 NFL games. You want to talk about those at all today, or we got?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about it. I'd like to talk about the Philadelphia game because it astounds me that you've got a team favored over the team that was, and I know it's all about the quarterback for Philadelphia, but Philadelphia's defense is being overlooked in this game, and Atlanta should not be favored, in my opinion, because you got a team that's on the road for the third time in 4 weeks. And I know their defense is playing well, but their defense is not as good as Philadelphia's. If you take away the one game where they gave up 23 points in the game where they scored 53, they've given up less than 12 points a game at home in defense. They're an excellent defensive team. They rank somewhere like in the top 5 in every defensive category, including points, against the run. They're just an excellent defensive team, and I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. And the weather is not going to be bad, by the way. It's supposed to be around 50 degrees and no rain, so weather may not be a factor in the game. So, but still, these are two teams right now that are playing excellent defense. And I think that you can put the Philadelphia running game that will match Atlanta's running game. You've got, Blount and Ajayi are two excellent running backs who can wear down a defense. And they also can catch the ball. And you've got a very good tight end playing for Philadelphia, too. So this quarterback is not going to be under a lot of pressure to throw downfield passes, although Philadelphia has good receivers, too. Of course, they're going to miss a quarterback who can extend plays, and that's been their strength all year. But Philadelphia is well coached. Schwartz is a great defensive coach, and this game has all the year marks of being a very low-scoring battle, and could come down to a field goal at the finish.
Well, and that's exactly what the line is. We've got 2.5 and 3. Atlanta's favored. First,
it's three. It's 3 now, and it's probably. I think it's probably going to go up.
Hard to say. I really wouldn't want to make a wager on what way that line's going to move, because there's a lot of sharps out there that are basically saying what you're saying, and that Philadelphia shouldn't be an underdog in this game. So I'm not sure it'll go up. There might be more tickets on Atlanta, but the money might definitely shade Philadelphia, because the bigger bettors will probably come in. Usually the bigger bettors are number players. They don't bet teams, they bet numbers. And this is a huge adjustment between Wentz and Foles. They said that Philadelphia would have been a 6-point favorite, 5.5 or 6-point favorite in this game if Wentz was the quarterback. That's a big adjustment.
They said more than that, Jim. They were saying that there's a 9-point swing right now. They could have been a 7-point favorite when the game opened up. I guess it was a 9.5-point swing. But Atlanta right now is the overwhelming play from the overreaction crowd. Because they went out and beat the highest scoring team and did what they did against the Rams, and they've won 7 of the last 9 games. The public has jumped on this team. They were a Super Bowl team a year ago, and this is a classic overreaction case because of the quarterback situation with Philadelphia and the fact that everybody's been jumping on the Rams, and that they're getting all the conversation. All the television commentators are picking the Rams. I haven't seen anybody really yet who's on television who's talking up Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think you said the Rams, but I think you meant Atlanta. They've been talking up the Falcons. All the talking heads are talking the Falcons. But
yep.
The Pittsburgh game is one I know that you had strong feelings about. That the thing about the Jacksonville team, the one thing that we have said all year, even though they played the weakest schedule in football, their defenses look pretty solid. Now, last week they played Buffalo, but Buffalo has such a pathetic offense. They don't look. Their offense never looks good against anyone. So, and the first time they played this year, Jacksonville dominated the Steelers. 5 interceptions by Roethlisberger. Pittsburgh's going to come in here with a vengeance. But the surprising thing about this to me is the line opened 7, and it went to 7.5. But there's an awful lot of money coming back on Jacksonville. And where I see minus 7.5, it's plus 115 to the dog, which means it's somewhere between 7 and 7.5. There hasn't been the biggest line, not a very big line move in Pittsburgh's favor in this game, which is kind of surprising that every time it goes up, there's enough money coming back in to take it down to the 7.5 plus money or 7. Like right now, Bookmaker has 7, and Heritage has 7. Intertops has 7. UWager has 7. JustBet has 7. And it's pretty interesting to me that that's taking
It's
place.
7, but you got to lay $1.20 now.
Yes, the line is actually, technically speaking, it's between 7 and 7.5. That's where the number is at this point. We've seen a slight move this morning on the New Orleans Minnesota game total. It's moved up from 44.5 to 45.5. And you got a very strong defensive ball club with Minnesota, and you had a decent defensive ball club with the Saints, but their injuries have shown up a little bit the last couple of weeks, and they've been giving up some points.
Not only on defense, but the Saints suffered a couple of offensive injuries last week too, and their offensive line, which is a little scary. So that's a concern. I think they lost their best offensive lineman last week, and I think he's going to be out. Keep an eye on that. Getting back to the Pittsburgh game, Boomer Esiason had a great line about Bortles. He compared him to Bobby Douglas. That's about as low as you can go when you're comparing quarterbacks.
I did hear that, yeah. I did hear that. Well, Hank, you've been doing real well. You've got college basketball games up tonight. You've got pro football for the weekend. We got, so people should go to the website, jimfeist.com, and pick up the plays right away. You should do that before the lines start to move, because you usually get the worst of it if you wait too long. So, Hank, anything else before we close it out for the day?
Yeah, what's wrong with Cleveland in the NBA?
Well, there's been a lot of issues there for the last couple of years with who's the coach. Is it really Lou, or is it LeBron? You're bringing in IT now, and they lost Kyrie. But you also have to remember in the NBA, and this is one of the issues that I have with the NBA, they play 82 regular season games, but in reality, a lot of these teams play these games as if they're preseason games. They don't play all the time. They don't even travel together sometimes. There's a lot of manipulation of they just want to get in the top 8 in each division so they can get in those final 16 teams to get in the playoffs. And in reality, the home field advantage in the playoffs is 1 game. So it's not that big of a deal to some of these guys. And they don't want to fatigue themselves. They want to stretch it out. They want to be healthy and somewhat vibrant when they get to the playoffs. So I'm not sure that there's much wrong with them, because when they need to, they can put their foot down on the pedal and play very well. So a couple of years ago, we saw the Golden State Warriors, and I think this is a big mistake by Steve Kerr. A couple of years ago, they were going for the record, and they got the record in regular season. But I think that they totally exhausted themselves doing it. And they did that year lose the championship to Cleveland. There were a couple other factors involved with the suspension of Green and everything for the 1 game, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line is, I think as a result of that, most of the teams realized the regular season games don't mean that much. And it's hard. The whole handicapping of the NBA is a different. It's a whole different scheme now to do that, because the better team doesn't show up every night, and the better players don't show the minutes every night. So it's keeping on top of what that plan is by each coach each and every day, that it makes it. So I don't know that there's anything really wrong with Cleveland, except that their attitude might be, these games don't always matter anyway.
Well, I think, a couple of years ago, Golden State had a much tougher trip to the finals than Cleveland did. Cleveland was the fresher team, that's true. But, and you had, illness and injuries and suspensions. There were a lot of reasons for that. And Cleveland that year had a better team. Now, I don't know that Cleveland has such a great team. I don't think they're as deep as they used to be. We'll see.
Yeah, it's the NBA to me is, I really get involved with the playoffs, very, very much so. I get really involved. In the regular season, I try to pick my spots. I can't play every team every night. You've got to really just look for those spots when a team might show up or won't show up. And some coaches won't even play their players back-to-back games. They'll sit a couple guys out, or they'll play the very small minutes. It's all they know. They know it's all about a fatigue issue. It's a long season. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of travel. The travel isn't all that convenient for these guys, and they've learned to manage that. Personally, I think the season's too long. I think they should cut it down to about 50 or 60 games and make the games more meaningful. But they won't do that because it's all about money. Be that as it may, we are here. We are. We got we got some other games. I mean, New England, Tennessee, we didn't discuss at all. If there's anything there you see, I mean, we know that the situation with New England is they give up a lot of yardage, but they do it in the middle of the field mostly. The question with this game to me is, can New England effectively stop the running game that Tennessee showed last week? Now, granted, New England's a much better team than Kansas City. So, and you're talking about a 13 or 14 point line. So we're not talking about who's going to win the game. I think we all realize that the strong likelihood is New England will win the game. This is always a small possibility it won't happen. But can New England effectively stop that running game that Tennessee has? And then, of course, is there potential of a backdoor cover, even if Tennessee isn't a potential candidate to win the game? Can they cover the game with some backdoor activity?
There's one other thing I want to bring up real quick, and that is that Carolina fired two offensive coaches yesterday, Mike Shula, Ken Dorsey, the quarterback coach. I thought that was an outrage. 2 years ago, those two guys were coaching when Carolina was in the Super Bowl. And they made the playoffs again this year. And, they've got a quarterback there who's a nutcase and not the easiest guy in the world to coach. They went through transition with some new additions to their offense. And they almost came back and won the game on Sunday. Mike Shula is a very bright coach, and Ken Dorsey is a very smart guy. I know him from his days at the University of Miami, and he's a good quarterback coach. If I'm Dallas, I hire one of those guys because their quarterback needs a little help. And Mike is a great offensive coordinator. He's a great guy with quarterbacks, always has been. That would be a good hire for Dallas. I would think that those two guys will land someplace. But here's another case where the head coach has thrown assistants under the bus because for some reason his team's not able to finish and they can't handle their quarterback, who's good one week and not so good the next. It's inconsistent when it's all in his head. Well,
they pay these quarterbacks a lot of money, and they guarantee them big time and lots of years, and it's a problem. when you give that much power to one player. I agree with you about the coaches that were let go. It didn't seem right to me either. There's a lot of coaching changes in the league. Now there'll be more after these teams are done playing. League rules don't allow them to be, signed yet by other clubs. But there might be players and coaches moving on from the teams that are remaining in the playoffs, these 8 teams. And when the Super Bowl is over, you never know what's going to happen, who's going where. I mean, it's going to be a whole different league next year, which is actually good because for me, I like evaluating the new players, the free agents, the draft choices, the coaches, and especially the offensive and defensive coaches. They're key, and nobody talks about them very much. And it's a major deal when you lose an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, because the whole system changes and the players have to adjust, and there's new playbooks, and there's a lot more to pro football than the quarterback and the head coach. There's a lot that goes behind that. And, John Gruden got $100 million to go to the Raiders. That's not going to solve the Raiders' problems. The Raiders are going to have to rebuild some situations there. I think they got lucky in 2016 to win a lot of close games. Last year they did not look good at all under Del Rio. So the Gruden's going to have to come in there and make a lot of changes. I think he's going to have issues. He's going to have to do some things on offense and defense, special teams. And then in 2 years they're going to be moving to Vegas, so that's another big issue. So there's a lot to go on there, but he got a 10-year contract, and if he gets to the playoffs a few of those let's say 4 out of 10 years, which is very possible, maybe they'll consider that a home run. It certainly will sell more tickets, that's for sure. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
Let me tell you how smart Gruden is. He built his whole case yesterday addressing the Raider team, the black hole customers, and the Oakland crowd. And he's looking to what he can do in the 2 years in Oakland. He didn't talk Las Vegas at all. That was very smart on his part. He's going to keep that Oakland crowd behind him. And that's a good way to start.
Well, yeah, from a PR standpoint, that certainly is. They backloaded his contract. Vegas, Nevada is a state where there's the taxes. We have no taxes. And, of course, California is the highest. I don't know if it's the highest tax state in the country, but it's one of them. And so they backloaded his contract so he can save a lot of tax money. And all those players will benefit from that. If they keep the same wage and they come to Vegas and they drop that 12 or 13% tax that they have to pay in California and won't have to pay it here in Las Vegas, that's a big boost to all those people. And real estate values here in Las Vegas have been going up because that whole influx of Raider people coming here, executives and players and families, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been a big boost for Vegas. It's very interesting dynamic that's going on here. But we're running along here again, Hank, and I got to run. But everybody, go to Jim5.com, pick up Hank's plays, my plays, and have a wonderful day. We'll talk in a couple days.